Let's do a little update on a couple of the cases that we have been following. Let's start with Christina Lee Powell. Christina is better known as Chrissy Lee. She is the missing 39-year-old mom of two boys out of San Antonio, Texas, who was seen on July 5th. She was seen on video walking away from her home, the house that Christina shares with her mother, Claudia, and her 12-year-old son. She also has a 3-year-old son who was taken away from her a year prior by her son's dad. And perhaps this might be a point of contention. According to Chrissy's mom, Claudia, this isn't the first time that Chrissy has sort of gone missing, but technically when this happened previously, Claudia knew that her daughter was with an ex-boyfriend. Today, as I videotape this, it is Sunday, July 17th. According to all the latest updates that I can find, neither her mother nor anyone else knows where Chrissy Lee might be. It's kind of odd though, as we go into this story even more, you'll see that San Antonio police haven't even listed her as a missing person on their website. But the latest updates are that July 4th represents a hard time for Chrissy Lee because July 4th, Independence Day, is the day that her 3-year-old son was taken away from her. Her 3-year-old son used to live with Chrissy Lee, but apparently for some unknown reason, the boy's dad took him on July 4th to go live with him. This happened in 2021. I gathered my research from a new article on Fox News, which is shedding more light on Chrissy's state of mind when she disappeared. In our previous video, we talked about finding a marriage license for Chrissy Lee in Bexar County. However, Chrissy's mom told Fox News that Chrissy has been married twice before, but she doesn't speak to either one of her ex-husbands. Apparently, one of those ex-husbands is the father of her 12-year-old son, and that 12-year-old son lives with Chrissy and her mom, Claudia. And that's sad and problematic. I don't know what happened with his dad. It's sad to think of there being no communication with that 12-year-old son and his dad because Chrissy doesn't talk to him anymore, unless the 12-year-old boy somehow communicates with his own dad, biological dad, on his own. We don't have much data on that. We are getting inklings of Chrissy allegedly having a DV, standing for domestic you-know-what, banner on Facebook. We don't know that situation with any of Chrissy's exes. Apparently, if I'm understanding this story correctly, Chrissy does not have any children with her other ex-husband. However, with one of her ex-boyfriends, she does share this 3-year-old son. Claudia Mobley, Chrissy's mom, told Fox News that this most recent Independence Day, July 4th, Chrissy just kept a low profile. It's kind of a sad anniversary of sorts because her 3-year-old son was taken away from her and no longer lived with Chrissy as of July 4th, 2021. The dad took the son away from Chrissy, allegedly. I don't know if any of this went through the court system or any kind of custody record, but apparently this move sounds like it's something that Chrissy didn't want. If it is something that really made her sad, the thought of her 3-year-old son no longer living with her. Claudia said, and I quote, "We didn't do anything because July 4th, a year ago, was when her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend walked out and took the baby. So it was kind of a bad anniversary." According to her mom, Chrissy just laid low over the holiday weekend. Doesn't sound like it was a lot of celebration and eating and laughing and talking. It sounds like Chrissy was just getting ready to get through that weekend and get through that sad anniversary. It reminds me of that song by Giveon, Heartbreak Anniversary. There are certain anniversaries, as I learned in grief recovery, that are just sad. The anniversary of the death of a loved one, a person you've lost, their birthday comes around, different times that remind you of something that may have happened that day that you didn't want to happen. Apparently, that's what Chrissy was going through. But at least she did have a new job to look forward to. This is painting a fuller picture. Now, the way Claudia describes it is that Chrissy's ex-boyfriend took their 3-year-old son, walked out as if he left her, but she doesn't give many details as to why. I don't know if Chrissy and her ex were going through a custody battle or if they were trying to do do things outside of the court system. They weren't married, so I'm not sure what was happening here. But it does paint an image of a desperate mom on her way late for her new job, first day, permanent full-time employee, July 5th, with a lot on her mind. We don't know why she overslept. Was it just normal oversleeping? This is just pure speculation, but I wonder, was Chrissy depressed? What kind of medication did she take? Did she try and self-medicate at all just to get through that holiday? And was that a reason for her oversleeping the next day? This is what Claudia said about Chrissy's ex-boyfriend, and I quote, "He wanted them to be a family unit again, and he was blaming her for them not being together." So that's a lot to contend with. Sharing a 3-year-old son with this man that she's obviously not always getting along with. Apparently they got along well the Saturday prior to her going missing, but then apparently Chrissy and her ex argued on Sunday. Her mom found these text messages and there was some kind of disagreement, but her mom didn't have all the details. She's dealing with a baby's daddy who there's obvious strife between the two. I don't know why he walked out and took his son with him. Was he taking his son out of harm's way? Was she not fit as a mom? That goes against what her loved ones are saying. Chrissy's loved ones call her a very attentive, loving type mom. Was her ex trying to punish her by taking their son away? Was it really in the child's best interest? Did they share custody of the boy? Was it week on, week off, summertime? There's so much to learn here. With Chrissy's ex blaming her for them not being a family unit, it just sounds so contentious. San Antonio police have, quote, nothing solid, at least nothing they're telling the public. And no further updates right now about Chrissy, who is 5 feet 2 inches tall and about 120 pounds, blonde, shoulder-length hair, and right-handed. Although again, sometimes she's a brunette. What really interests me about the day that Chrissy went missing is that she had just done so well that she had scored a new paralegal job. Chrissy had begun work as a temporary paralegal at Sanchez & Wilson Attorneys at Law, a professional limited liability company. It's located at 6243 West Interstate 10, located in San Antonio, only 15 minutes away from Chrissy's house. Now, in the short few days that Chrissy worked for this law firm, she had made a great impression on them. Mark Sanchez, a managing partner at the firm, said that Chrissy had just started working there on June 27th, and she had performed so well that by Friday, July 1st, Chrissy was offered a full-time position with the company, and she accepted it on the spot. Mark Sanchez said, and I quote, "We were impressed with her punctuality and hard work, and extended her a full-time offer of employment actually on Friday, July 1st, the weekend before she disappeared. She was elated and accepted a job offer on the spot." So those are the words of Mark Anthony Sanchez Sr. And it sounds like a great firm. They recognized her potential in just a few days. Apparently, she had just started working there that Monday, July 27th. In 5 days, by that Friday, they were offering her a job. Attorney Sanchez called Chrissy punctual and hardworking. He said that she showed herself to be bright and personable. So in those first 5 days of work, obviously, Chrissy put her best foot forward. She must not have overslept at any point and made a great impression. Because Chrissy was elated that Friday that she got this job offer, that leads me to believe that Chrissy wouldn't just disappear of her own volition by Tuesday, July 5th. If you have a new job and that would have been her first full day, I believe, of full-time employment, it seems like something you would really look forward to keeping. Mark said, and I quote, "She never came to work in that short time in any capacity other than wanting to work and being prepared for work. We wouldn't have offered her a full-time position if we weren't satisfied that she was demonstrating those basic workplace values that we expect, such as punctuality, hard work, attention to detail." Yes, of course, at a law firm, you want someone who is on time, pays attention and gets things correct. It sounds like that's what Chrissy was doing. Despite certain reports that claim Chrissy called into work, I mean, maybe someone was just misquoted or maybe someone misunderstood. According to Mark, it was someone at the law firm that called Chrissy that morning, which makes more sense. Since Chrissy said she overslept, it makes sense that someone from the law firm called her to wake her up, not the other way around. Whoa, here I am. I'm awake. Let me call. I'll be there. Either way could play out. According to Mark, it was them that called Chrissy. Mark said it was July 4th weekend and she had overslept but was on her way to work. That makes sense. I'm not sure if it's a small law firm. They sound really concerned, like they followed their gut feeling, because 2 hours later, when Chrissy still hadn't made it into the law firm, they knew, wait a minute, something's wrong here, what's going on? So there was a female employee of the law firm that went on over to Chrissy's house and checked in on her. They already knew that something felt wrong with the situation. Indeed, I'm glad they followed up and followed their gut. Attorney Sanchez said, quote, "It was a feeling we all had, and it was just something wasn't right." And they were correct. Obviously, if you get this temp employee, this paralegal, she does an excellent bang-up job her first 5 days at work, and then you offer her a full-time job. Tuesday after the holiday rolls around, they're understanding. People oversleep, things happen. They call her and she's like, "I'm on my way." 2 hours pass, and of course they would have her home address. They know something is wrong here. Obviously, they didn't get any other communications from her. They must not have gotten a follow-up call or text or anything saying, "I'm stopping here," or "I'm stopping there," or "I'm doing this or that." So no wonder by lunchtime, the female employee just ran on over 15 minutes just to check. "Is your mom here?" The 12-year-old boy says no, she's at work. He checks and she's not at home, and that's where this mystery begins. One thing Claudia did admit is that Chrissy has gone missing before, but I don't really know if you can call this missing. So it was 4 or 5 years ago, either in 2017 or 2018, that Chrissy kind of disappeared for a few days. So back then, Claudia says that she had threatened to call the police at this point, and Chrissy was with an ex-boyfriend. So I'm not sure if this is the same guy who's the father of her 3-year-old son or a different ex-boyfriend, but Claudia never followed through with calling the police. Now, all these statements and details that I'm glad Claudia is providing the public, because they help give more context and understanding to the situation, but they also beg more questions. Claudia didn't explain why she felt the urge to threaten to call the police when she knew her daughter Chrissy was with some ex-boyfriend. I don't know why Claudia felt the need to threaten Chrissy's ex-boyfriend that I'm going to call the police 4 or 5 years ago if she knew her daughter was off with this man. Did she feel her daughter was in a dangerous situation with this ex-boyfriend 4 or 5 years ago when she quote-unquote disappeared? Did Claudia think Chrissy was in a dangerous situation 4 or 5 years ago? Either way, that seemed to work itself out. This is what Claudia said, quote, "One time she did, but I knew she was with her boyfriend. That was a long time ago. It was days, but not a week." I'm assuming the Fox News reporter asked Claudia, has Chrissy ever done anything like this before? Has Chrissy ever gone missing before? And her mom is saying, well, one time she did, but I knew she was with her boyfriend. But I don't know why she would threaten to call the police. If your then 30-something-year-old daughter says, "Hey mom, I'm going to go spend a few days with my boyfriend, can you watch the kid?" Or it would have been one child then, so "Can you watch my son?" Well, why would the police need to be involved unless Chrissy was being held against her will? There's something weird here that we don't know the details, and I think we'll end up finding out more about that, hopefully, when Chrissy is found. We still don't even know if Chrissy was actually spotted in Kerrville or if that was a false report. Did Chrissy drive past her law firm office? Did she drive an hour north? Now, part of me can see different scenarios. Was Chrissy beating herself up that she had overslept on her first full day of her full-time job? Was she still upset over her ex-boyfriend having their 3-year-old son living with him? Did she have all this on her mind as she's driving to work and beating herself up and saying, oh, I'm so late? Did she just decide, forget it, I'm doing a detour, I'm just going to keep on driving? And some women and men feel overwhelmed, and there are points in their lives when they have a break and they decide, I'm just going to keep on going. I'm not going to tell anyone. However, there's been no spending in her checking account, so is she using credit cards? I would hope there is some type of alert set up that if Chrissy is using her credit cards, someone would be alerted and they could find her quickly. So did Chrissy tell herself in her mind that, well, my 12-year-old son is with my 70-year-old mom, he'll be okay. My 3-year-old boy is with his dad, and that situation is not okay. Was she so overwhelmed by everything that she decided to keep on driving? I keep thinking of Marie Osmond, Donnie and Marie Osmond is mom to many, many children, and she suffered from, they used to call it the baby blues, but she suffered from postpartum depression. Marie Osmond once so eloquently described how she was so overwhelmed that she got in her car in California and just kept driving up the coast. And later, when she came back, her mom had confessed, one time I did a similar thing. I just got in my car and drove away. So is it one of those situations where Chrissy was just overwhelmed and now she's too embarrassed to come back? I don't know. Family members do not see her as the type of mom who would abandon her children. Or could we find out later that this text message argument somehow plays into the disappearance, if not directly, somehow peripherally? And I'm wondering, with Claudia describing this situation to police, perhaps, maybe police may have asked, has Chrissy done this before? If Claudia told police about the previous instance, is that why it took police a few days to consider Chrissy a missing person? Were they thinking she had just run away with a boyfriend or something? Did she drive her Nissan Rogue off into some type of tragic fate? Or did she meet with foul play along the way? Now, despite what people are saying about San Antonio and its relation to Mexico, and people always want to blame a stranger on an incident, which it could really be true, but with Chrissy just traveling 15 minutes away from her house to the law firm via I-10, if she took that route, I don't think it was necessarily a lot of time during the bright daylight Texas hours at 10:30 a.m. for Chrissy to meet with some type of foul play that folks wouldn't see, that folks would not witness. I think if something had happened around that area or time, someone would have seen something. But we did learn something else about Chrissy's SUV, unfortunately. Police say that Chrissy's SUV has no tracking device in there in her car. Even though there's no obvious tracking device, with this Nissan 2020, if they do find it, there is some type of Burla navigation report data they would be able to extract from it. Whether Chrissy has some type of OnStar, that's a whole nother situation. Maybe she doesn't. So in the meantime, family and friends are hopeful. They are waiting for an update. One thing that's odd, if you check the City of San Antonio missing persons page, you don't see Chrissy listed. And you see Kerrville police posting about her, but you don't see San Antonio police posting about her. So it's kind of strange. Maybe they are laying low and just saying, let's wait before they tell the public everything. I'm not saying they found Chrissy, but I'm saying they obviously perhaps know a lot more than what they're letting on. I just still hope it's a positive outcome. And it's better to have Chrissy's family relieved and perhaps just a little bit angry at her for disappearing than to have some other type of fate. Again, we'll keep track, we'll keep watching. One thing that Chrissy's friend, Lauren Leal, had said is, it really is uncharacteristic of Chrissy. Lauren spoke of both her and Chrissy having strong work ethics. We're in our late 30s, we have a very strong work ethic. We've always, if you say you're going to be at work, you're going to be at work. And I think that's why she woke up and was like panic mode. So that's what her friend said. One attorney at the firm, Robert Wilson, spoke of how hard it was to find good employees. He said, employees are hard to find right now. And they're not all perfect or do a wonderful job. And one employee that stood out to us was Chrissy, because she was so low-key and there wasn't any drama. Boy, things surely changed after Friday. Those are quotes according to WSAV, so they're following the case too. And Chrissy's friend Lauren is vowing to never give up on her. I also wanted to update viewers on the case of John Laufman. He is the popular 69-year-old weatherman out of Cleveland. A lot of us were shocked when we learned that John Laufman had been assaulted in his own home in Bay Village, Ohio, about 15 miles west of Cleveland. And people were really shocked to see that John's 32-year-old son, Daniel Laufman, as well as John's wife, 66-year-old Julia Laufman, had been arrested. Julia was arrested for obstruction. Daniel was arrested for assault. It appears that Julia has bailed out of jail, much lower bail. It appears that Daniel's bail has also been reduced. I will link my previous video below if you don't know the situation, but John Laufman was in full cardiac arrest and there was no 911 call associated with the case. So I don't know how, besides perhaps with his smartwatch or some type of life alert, paramedics in Bay Village were alerted that John was in full cardiac arrest. Paramedics called for assistance from Bay Village police. Daniel was ultimately arrested, and Julia was also brought in for an interview and questioning, and she was arrested based on obstruction. We still don't know why or how or what could happen with this case. John, again, seems like such a fun-loving, good guy. Some people say, I got some interesting comments. A lot of people just say, wow, John seems wonderful. What happened? Was his son on drugs? What was going on? And we did look at Daniel's history. We saw his criminal history where Daniel does have a disorderly intoxicated charge in the past from 2014. Could it have been related to that? Another problem? Losing a job or something? We don't know. But I did get comments from at least one person said, well, you never know what goes on behind closed doors. This one woman wrote, it was really interesting. She wrote, everyone thought, my grandpa was this great guy until it turned out that her grandfather was harming her grandmother. So whether we find out it's some sort of situation like that, whether it's drugs, whether it's elder abuse, whatever it is, I'm keeping track of this case. So Daniel recently appeared in court for his first arraignment, which is a formal reading of charges. I'm going to read the notes directly from the Cuyahoga County Clerk of Courts. That's the only update I see. I did not find any news stations that were in court covering this case so we could see Daniel on video. Unfortunately, if I would have known, maybe I would have made the effort to drive over to Bay Village, which is quite a haul, but Daniel's first appearance was scheduled for July 15th at 8:30 a.m. It says, first appearance held July 15th, 2022. Defendant present with counsel. Obviously, Daniel was there with his lawyer. I wish all of these places streamed on YouTube or streamed on a city government site somewhere, and I wish they allowed us to just publish the videos always. Some courts don't allow it. Perhaps I can see if I can get the transcripts. It says defendant retained J, and that's J-A-Y-E, middle initial M, Schlachet, Schlachet as counsel. Now this says his bond was set at $50,000, which seems like a reduction from what they were stating his bond would be in a previous video. So with his bond at $50,000, let's see what he can come up with. It says bond type cash, surety property 10%, bond conditions court supervised release, GPS home detention monitoring, no contact with victims, no early disposition conference was scheduled to be presented directly to grand jury at the request of state. As of this recording, it says Daniel's status, if they are correct, he is still in custody. I'm going to check VineLink as well. And VineLink also agrees that Daniel is still in custody, and I should get notified if he bails out. As for Julia Loftman, apparently she bailed out. All we see as of July 15th on the Cuyahoga County Court site is there was a payment received of Julia Loftman on July 15th. So we don't have a lot of info there, but it's good to see that if Daniel ever bails out, there is a no contact order with his victim, so he's not supposed to be contacting his dad. As far as I know, John Loftman is still recovering, healing, stable in the hospital. We know it was a severe assault to the point where John could barely speak, and if he was in full cardiac arrest, I expect him to remain in the hospital or in some recovery place or somewhere, hopefully safe somewhere away from his perpetrator for a while. With Daniel, we're waiting on the grand jury here, so we know a lot of those things can be secretive. They just get regular citizens, present the evidence, make sure there's enough to proceed, go forward in trial. So, they say the wheels of justice turn, but they turn slowly. Sometimes that's really what happens with these cases. You just have to wait. You might not know what happens with grand jury proceedings, especially if they're secret and sealed, but eventually you will see updates. If I can get any transcripts or video or anything, I will create another video. We'll see what I'm allowed to get from the court. But for now, that's the update in the Loftman case and Chrissy Lee Powell's case. Stay tuned because I'm researching another really crazy case and gathering all the videos and knowledge I can before I create another video and present that new case to you, hopefully very soon after you watch this one. Might take me a day or 2 or 3, we'll see. But thank you for watching. Let's close with Colossians 2:9 through 10. For in Christ all the fullness of the deity lives in bodily form, and in Christ you have been brought to fullness. He is the head over every power and authority. So that gives me hope. When we see these crazy crime cases, sometimes we only just see the result. Like we see John Loftman attacked, allegedly by his own son. We have no idea what the heck, why, how, what for, but then ultimately justice prevails. Sometimes it takes until on the other side of heaven for it to prevail, but justice does prevail. We like to see justice happening on earth. We like to see perpetrators punished accordingly and kept away from their victims and harming no one else. I hope the truth spills out. I hope Chrissy Lee is found alive and healthy and gets all the help she needs. And I pray John Loftman gets his justice in the Loftman case. Whatever happened, we just want truth and justice to prevail. As always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. If the next video is what I think it'll be, it's a crazy case involving mommy vlogger, MLM, and some crazy K drink. And sadly, a husband who's in a coma. Stay tuned. Thank you.